a catastrophic, arrogant blunder they would quickly realize as they went to Hillary Rodham, who was sitting at the witness table, position at the very same oak table where she had previously visited Senator Kennedy. The underlying atmosphere of the room had shifted, suddenly trapping her in a fatal game by parameters she could not manipulate. Wearing a flawless charcoal suit, rejecting the usual navy or severe black, she adopted the tactical attire of a supreme political survivor who understood the pale psychology of power. While dark colors project commanding dominance and pale tones suggest soft vulnerability, charcoal masterfully controls the room while hiding any hint of vulnerability or intent. Resting on the gleaming wood in front of her were her reading glasses and a solitary pearl pin. These were not functional items, but tactical props kept at hand, similar to a loaded gun casually shown during a high-stakes poker game. Directly across from her, Chairman Johnson was armed with nothing but a standard yellow legal pad, the cheap variety found at any local office supply store. It was the exact humble tool preferred by working-class constitutional lawyers in Shreveport, Louisiana. He chose it for its practical function, and because in those blue-collar areas, flaunting, expensive, personalized stations signaling that the trap was flawlessly set and its silent architect was prepared to spring it. Clinton evaluated him with the exact same icy, practiced calculation she had aimed at every interrogator throughout 30 years of inquiries. Her steady gaze belonged to someone perpetually measuring the physical and psychological distance between herself and the nearest credible threat. Having easily brushed off Senator Kennedy's folksy charm to walk away unscathed, stared down hostile Senate committees to emerge victorious, and endured exhausting Benghazi hearings without a scratch, she rapidly processed the dynamic like a supercomputer. She concluded her tactical assessment. The modest man sitting in the chairman's seat presented zero actual threat. To her, he was merely the greenest House Speaker in over a century. He was just the turbulent Republican Party's fourth choice, a fluke leader no one actually wanted for the role. He was a small-town constitutional lawyer from Shreveport with no Supreme Court appearances, no elite federal clerkships, and no background of the prestigious East Coast law firms respected by the D.C. elite. When she opened her mouth, her tone dripped with the condescending focus of an apex predator toying with its meal. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, and I mean that genuinely, you are the most inexperienced speaker in 140 years, she pronounced. Her statement reverberated through the hushed room, heavy with the crushing authority of someone who had spent her whole life dominating rooms where raw experience was the only currency, and she had exponentially more of it than anyone else there. You have served in Congress for less time than I spent merely as Secretary of State. She pressed on, her gaze fixed on him. You practiced law in Shreveport. I practiced law at the Yale Law Clinic, at the Children's Defense Fund, at the Rose Law Firm, and within the White House counsel's sphere, she cataloged.
She was just straight up telling you that she was a professional fucking liar. She done went through all the fucking loopholes to be the best fucking legal lying lawyer there is.
Deployed a calculated pause, not to catch her breath, but as a weaponized, quiet engineer for maximum dramatic effect. Clinton's iconic pauses were tuned with the exactness of a smart bomb set to explode at a precise coordinate with a specific blast radius. Before you attempt to school me on constitutional standards, maybe remember that some of us have been utilizing them at the absolute highest echelons of government. While you were submitting paperwork at Bossier Parish, she declared. She wasn't done turning the blade. And I will point out that your primary desire in the position, you were the fourth option, Mr. Speaker. The participation trophy speaker. The whole committee room physically jolted as the collective breath of 200 attendees lodged in their throats. A low electric buzz rolled through the audience, while Clinton's top aide, a crisply dressed Georgetown MBA sitting just behind her, began frantically tapping on a tablet. The jab was surgically exact, heavily workshopped, and built to immediately establish an ironclad hierarchy. The dominance of Yale over LSU, Washington's urban elite over Shreveport's rural simplicity, a Secretary of State's international power over a local constitutional attorney, and the bulletproof shield of veteran experience against perceived amateurism. Up at the raised chairman's dais, Mike Johnson responded in a manner that absolutely nobody in that massive space had predicted. He didn't turn red with fury or smash his gavel to demand silence. He merely retrieved a cheap plastic pen, took the cap off with agonizing slowness, and jotted precisely 2 words onto his yellow legal pad. Then he raised his eyes to Hillary Clinton, wearing the tranquil face of a grandmaster at chess who had just been gifted the exact opening move needed to pull off a flawless checkmate. Because in her staggering arrogance, Clinton had just committed a disastrous blunder, a highly technical, profoundly strategic failure of legal framing that only a veteran constitutional lawyer would instantly spot and leverage. In her rush to publicly embarrass him, she had fiercely targeted his background, while simultaneously entering her own gold-plated curriculum vitae into the permanent congressional record. She had specifically named Yale, the Rose Law Firm, the Children's Defense Fund, and her time as Secretary of State. She had drawn a harsh, distinct boundary between Shreveport and Washington, between LSU and Yale, and between Bossier Parish and the global arena. And by doing that, she had cemented on camera for the enduring historical archive, entirely of her own volition, that she was undeniably one of the most legally trained individuals in the United States. This signified, according to the ironclad rules of legal combat, that every single complicated constitutional query Johnson was preparing to throw at her was one she now had zero, except she had
to set herself up for failure, trying to say that she's the best motherfucker for to answer any motherfucking questions dealing with the legal system. Yeah, Hillary, you fucking criminal. You about to get busted like a bubble.
Confidently strutted into the testing center, loudly broadcasted to the entire room that she was the most intelligent person there, and the unassuming instructor seated opposite her was now exceedingly eager to distribute the exam. Madam Secretary Johnson commenced, and his tone was a revelation, devoid of pointless shouting or weak hesitation. It wasn't dripping with fake Southern charm or laced with partisan toxicity. It was the chillingly composed voice of an individual who had stood before university lecture halls for 2 decades and discovered that the most commanding noise a veteran teacher can produce is the profound resonance of endless patience. I appreciate the resume. It is formidable. Yale Law, 1973. Rose Law Firm. Children's Defense Fund. Secretary of State. I recorded and only conceded with a fluent, rehearsed sweep. He lifted the yellow legal pad and angled it outward so she and the gathered media could clearly see it.
Now, I'm gonna come back to this. I just want to stop it right there because I ain't gonna do 15 minutes without you just cutting me off. But I just want you to listen to the rest of this here when you get a chance. It's some good shit. It's showing how crooked Hillary Clinton really is and how much the legal system cover their own.